within our school district. And again, unless I continue to see minorities, Black females, Black men receiving contracts in our school district, then I will continue to make the same appeal to not only the superintendent, but to my colleagues as well, that in a system where 45% is African American, let's make sure that we start doing business with people that look like the people that we're serving in our district, our stakeholders. And so just let us continue to be mindful of that. You and I did have a conversation a while back in regards to a system that will be able to monitor race or minority and all that stuff. And so I'm not sure what it's going to take to get to that point, but I would love to know what system that is and what action the board needs to take in order to start capturing that information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. And I will just respond to what you said, that I did from our conversation last night, had a conversation with Mr. Smith, and that the next available workshop that we're able to do for them to be able to present to us how that information is already going out and what our policies are on that. And then that way it'll help to guide us, especially as we step into the equity conversations, what we need to continue to do. I know you mentioned to me last night, the possibility of, a conference or a workshop or, inviting somebody to something like that. So we'll look into those type of things.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, sir.
All right. So I think that was at the point of discussion. So all in favor with the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 All right. I believe I have 5 of those. That's wonderful. All right. We will move then down to our discussion and presentations. And the first one is our exemplary board criteria. I have not gotten a definitive answer yet, and I don't even know if they know for sure right now if GSBA will be hosting the Savannah Summer Conference or not. That is where they do the recognition of the boards that have applied for this. Last year, we made application for the Distinguished Board and received that. It doesn't take much additional work for us to move on to the next one, which is the Exemplary Board. There are 2 things that still do have to happen between now and June, assuming that they're going to recognize these, and that is that there has to be a committee meeting, and it's called the Exemplary Committee, to be formed, and then them to meet before April 15th, which doesn't give us a whole lot of time, but it's not too difficult, and especially because I'm assuming the meeting can be done the same manner in which we're doing this meeting. It would not put anyone in harm's way. We have to have 2 board members, 2 committee members or community members, and 1 staff member to be a part of this. And the only difference or the only thing with that is that it cannot be any of the 5 that were on the committee last year for the distinguished. And so that would take myself, Ms. Sue, that would take Ms. Jewel Walker Harps, Kristen Miller, and I believe Dr. Kennedy, weren't you there with us last year? She may be on mute, but I believe it was Dr. Kennedy was our person.
I think so. Yeah.
In that committee last year. So
yes, that's correct. I was the staff representative.
Right.
Okay. Well, I have, with that being said, I've already reached out to Mr. Brown to see if he would be willing to help lead this next meeting that we need to have and be one of those board members. And he said that he would be willing to do that. He had an idea of someone possibly within the community he would reach out to. Mr. Smith, I'm assuming then you would appoint another staff member to be a part of that.
Yes, we'll get that to you quickly.
Okay, and then we just need, I have one other community person as long as the time frame of the meeting falls within her schedule, and that is Miss Angel Jackson with the Archway Partnership. She would be willing to do that. Again, it just depends on the timing of all that. So basically what I need now is if we have another board member that is interested, or Mr. Brown, if you have a suggestion, or
Mr. Dawes, if you don't mind, the community members, I think, we are missing the mark on looking at community members. I think we need to look at someone from a school PTO president,
okay,
instead of the people that we have had on the board in the past. They really don't have any connection in the system other than with the board training. But I think we need to get someone who's actively involved at the school level, per se, like a PTO president, because they are the ones who are probably more involved in the schools at the school level than anybody I can think of. So I would make that suggestion.
okay, great idea.
And I definitely support that suggestion. If I may, Mr. Chair, I definitely support that suggestion, Leader Holmes, as you stated that they are the ones who are dealing with the scholars and dealing with the parents. And so that definitely brings a new flavor to the committee by asking a sitting parent, PTO member, to be on this committee. So thank you so much for that. And Mr. Chair has asked me to kind of spearhead it, and I'll definitely take that as a suggestion and something that we're going to make happen.
Okay.
I also agree with Mr. Holmes. I think it needs to be someone that's more in tune with what we're trying to achieve and do.
Wonderful. Okay. So that'll give you several options, Mr. Brown, maybe to reach out to.
I have a couple that I can reach out to, some from Jordan Hill, Jackson Road, and Atkinson. So, and I'll put some fillers out there. I would like to ask Mrs. Cook, would she like to be the other board member to serve on the committee?
I will be happy to serve on the committee.
That's good.
All right, wonderful. The second thing with this is our board training, and received some information from Ms. Joni and Ms. Kimberly about some of our training this past year and where we're at. We are still trying to verify to make sure we have everything right. If I'm not mistaken, the training started from after the Savannah conference last year until now.
Yes.
So we have 3 hours of total or whole board training, I guess, is the way that you say it, that we did in the fall. Is that correct? Did you find that out if we did that in the fall? I'm pretty sure we did with GSBA. That is the one where we had an interesting conversation and ended up not really finalizing anything, and then we brought back GSBA, and we were not able to get them back until January. In January, we had 4 board members that were able to attend. And Zach, were you? I couldn't remember this, and it may have been the year before that you weren't able to attend.
It was this past December. I wasn't able to go to Atlanta.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was this one or the one before. So
yeah, it was just this past December. So I need to get with Ms. Boney to try to get in something at RISA.
Okay, so according to the records that I have, we let me just put it this way: we all need 15 hours of training in order to reach the exemplary. I have myself as 12 hours. I have Miss Sue at 12 hours. I have Mr. Brown at 9 hours. I have Zach and Barbara Joe at 6 hours each. So there are online trainings. I don't know what GSBA and our local thank you. RISA is going to be providing between now and then, but we just need to look into that and make sure our totals get up to that 15-hour mark.
Mr. Chair, I contacted RISA, And then I contacted Joni to get me registered for the April 15th session for 6 hours.
Okay.
I don't know if they're still planning to have that now with the crisis.
Right.
Is that online?
I'm sorry.
Is that an online course? They moved a lot of their professional learning to online basis now. Or is it going to be an in-class?
Okay.
Nope.
She said this was supposed to be.
Dr. Gordy and see what we've got.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, include me in that research, Mr. Smith.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll check and see what Dr.
Yeah, and if I could, and if also if I could do a online class to catch up with my other hours with my add to my 9, I'll be more than happy to do that as well.
Okay. I'm going to shoot her a note and ask her about that then. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments or discussion about the exemplary board?
Will, what's the April 15 meeting or the class?
Well, the April 15th, I threw out that date as being the date that we have to have the exemplary committee meeting by, and then Barbara Jo threw out that date as when they had scheduled a 6-hour training, but we don't know if that has been rescheduled or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions?
All right. I'll send that to her. Okay.
All right. Then we will move on then to GSCS response to COVID-19, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the board members coming online today and meeting us in this most unusual fashion, but it's a sign of the times that we're in. This really helps us get some things going, and particularly with our hiring process, which is going hot and heavy right now. And I'll ask Ms. Dobbins to talk about our recruiting and hiring process in a few moments. We've had to make a few changes on that, but we can't let it stop either. So I did want to spend a little bit of time bringing the board up to date on things that we have put in place in Griffin-Spalding County Schools over the last 3 weeks or so, when it became apparent that we were going to have to close schools and begin to move to a different type of learning platforms and operational status. And I want to start off by saying that I'm very proud of what our staff has done in moving an awful lot of work along, particularly in the instructional area, the meal distribution area, so many things, the hiring part, the budget part, having meetings with our schools to keep our budget process moving along. It has really been very heartening to see the collaboration and teamwork that has gone into this, and they'll be talking to you about that as we move along. And I think you'll particularly be excited about what we're seeing out at the school level with interaction between teachers and students and parents, and how that has really been probably much better than we would have thought that it would have been. It's really been very good to see how that's gone along. So we'll talk about that. But the first thing I wanted to mention was the food distribution program. And I'd like to ask Mr. Aiken and Ms. Lawrence to maybe give us a background on where we have come in the first 3 weeks, and then I'll talk about moving into the future. Anthony, can you and Tiffany talk about that for a moment?
Sure. As you know, we've had the meal distribution 3 different times. The first week, we did a 3-day distribution. We served about 1,400 students with about 8,400 individual meals that time. Then on the 23rd, we did a 5-day distribution, approximately 1,800 students there. So that was about 18,000 meals. And then again, yesterday, we served less than 1,800, about 1,781, I believe it was. So again, looking at it close to 18,000 meals that were served there. Had a good flow over the day yesterday. No one waited very long to get meals. No more than probably 12 cars in a line at one time that had to wait after we got started. As you know, there were several lined up waiting before we actually began serving at 10:30. But once the line started moving, everything went really smoothly. We opened up 2 additional prep sites yesterday. So we've got the 4 that we're serving: Futrell, Ann Street, Axon, and Cowan Elementary. And then we opened up Griffin High and Cowan Middle just for prep sites to make sure that we have food moving to the schools as they dwindle from what they are actually producing. So we're prepping at those 4 plus 2 more. We've had about 60 employees, 60 to 65 probably nutrition staff members that were prepping and working. And then we had, I'm going to say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 plus volunteers that were passing out the meals outside of the schools. We've been blessed and we are thankful. The nursing program at Southern Crescent, they were looking for community hours to fill with all the businesses closed. They contacted us and we've worked out. We've had 20 of those young ladies at each day for those 3 days, helping us distribute on top of our workers. So everything has been going extremely well.
Okay, well, thank you. I've had a chance to go out and visit the sites, and the one we did yesterday, we put some more procedures in place to maintain the social distancing, the 6 feet or so between people on the ramp. That's sometimes a hard thing to do, but we're trying very hard to do. We also provided some more additional personal protective equipment in terms of masks, gowns, gloves. I told one group it was very impressive riding up and seeing them all decked out in that. But they've done a great job trying to get that stuff together and get that out. And the work they've done, as Mr. Akins mentioned, we're talking about 18,000 individual meals a day that they've been producing. And so that's remarkable to do. So as we move forward, as I sent you the note last week, we will be observing spring break as a district as planned this coming week. We are working to support efforts of various community organizations who also do some food distribution to kind of help augment what they have going on. But we will not be distributing ourselves this coming week. Our plan is to resume a meal distribution.
Mr. Superintendent, are you able to tell us which organizations we're looking to work with?
We've been working in particular with Salvation Army.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that you've talked to? Because that was our primary one, trying to focus on that. That's our primary, was the Salvation Army and some others that they were reaching out to from their standpoint to try to focus that work. Then we will come back with a meal distribution on Tuesday, April the 14th, with another 4-day meal packet, and then we'll be continuing from that point as circumstances dictate. And nobody really knows how long that's going to last.
Mr. Smith, if you, if the chairman, give me a point of privilege to just make a comment. I've done this type of work for almost 30 years. I think I know a little bit more about the emergency response than anybody sitting on the board or working in the cabinet. And I must say that the rule of thumb in the arena that I was trained in and I worked in is that you would rather say that you did too much than to say that you didn't do enough. And with that statement being made, I can't say that we did too much, because we fell short in some areas. It's okay to pat ourselves on the back when we've done a job to deserve that, but I think we fell short in some areas that I still to this day do not understand why. From messages I've gotten, we had principals that wanted to feed at their schools, but that wasn't readily accessible. And like I said, I got that secondhand. So I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm asking today. But I feel like we could do some things a little different. What I'm used to and what I'm used to seeing people do is regather and make adjustments even during an emergency situation, crisis situation. And if we haven't done that as far as I can see, because nothing changed when we've heard people crying out wanting to have food delivered, because I can tell you some places that we miss because they don't have the transportation to get to the sites that we feed at. That's why I suggested that we use our transportation like other schools to let them run their route, which they only have to run one day. They can have 4 or 5 people on the bus with them or whatever from their school. They don't have to pull in anyone. They can use parapro. But I think we still missed a lot of students when we have a 75% population on free and reduced lunch. And you know, out of 10,000 plus students, we hit 1,400. I don't think those are numbers that we should be proud of, because that left a lot of people without getting meals. So I would say going forward, I understand this is a break, because I tell you, like today, I had some of my contact, my Masonic brothers, they went and fed the kids out there at Pine Hill Apartments, because I haven't heard anyone servicing that area. And so, you know, once I realized they had fell between the cracks, I put my wheels in motion and called some people that I could depend on, and they got fed today. And so I'm using that as an example of students who got missed during this process. But I think if we're going to do more than what we're expected to do and really impact these students who are not going to get a meal because the parents either not being responsible or not having the money, the extra money to do this, because this is a unannounced or unanticipated emergency. So this is not something that they're used to doing. I would say we need to look at it from a different angle, because just me now, I'm just stating my perception. It's like we came up with excuses of why we couldn't do something, instead of looking at what we can do and how we can do it. And see, that's not the way that I think, especially in emergency situations. I'm going to give you 150%, you know, to try to go over what is expected. And that's what I think we need to operate under the mindset of doing more than we should, and so that we can say that we did, instead of saying and having people second guess us, saying that we didn't do enough. Because I'm just going to let you know, our name is not very good out in the community right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And so Mr. Smith will allow you to finish, but then we'll come back to some further discussion on that.
Okay. Well, I think our group has done a very good job in the meal service. This was the way we felt was the safe way to do the distribution for all involved, and we've produced a lot of meals to go out there. I understand there are different ways that people have done it, but there are many who've done it exactly like we have, and I think we've still impacted an awful lot of people. Have been very appreciative of the work that was done, and have let us know that they appreciated that. I'll go on then to instructional program, because the work that's been done with our classrooms, with our teachers interacting with our students online, packets has also been tremendous. So I'm going to ask Dr. Kennedy to start off that it's a conversation on some things that we've been doing and where we stand on that, and then she can call in the others of our cabinet to talk about their particular areas.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Although we are in uncertain times with a lot of uncertainty before us, you know, all these challenges also bring us opportunities. And in our current situation that we find ourselves in, It has brought forth an opportunity for us to develop, experience, and implement the digital learning. During this experience, we've had to make some mental and physical adjustments. And thinking about that, it reminded me of something one of my inspirational speakers has often said, Les Brown, that you have to continue to move and make adjustments and fine-tune your strategy within the organization, and then make things happen. And I think our schools and departments have done just that, making it happen for our students across the district. Our schools and departments are engaging in best practices for online and virtual learning environments. They are providing support in areas of instruction, technology use, special education, IEPs, and service delivery, social emotional learning, and much more. We've provided Chromebooks for 2nd through 12th grade students, as well as printed learning materials to our students across the school district. Many of our teachers are strengthening their capacity around digital learning and how to support students in a digital learning environment. Our teachers and administrators are using online tools and social media platforms to communicate with our students and parents. And at the same time, we're also having to plan for the upcoming school year, so we can't let those things get lost while we're experiencing these different times. So we have to continue that planning for the 2021 school year as well. I tell you, I have been truly amazed by our teachers, our administrators, nutrition staff, custodial staff, support staff, and district leaders as we've continued to engage in the changing facet of the work that is before us. At this time, I'm going to ask Sarah Jones and Dr. Sauce and Dr. Warren to share some specific details related to plans that we have going, as well as things that we're working through in preparation as we move forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Jones at this time.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well. I would like to just start off and echo much of what has been said by Mr. Smith and Dr. Kennedy, and everybody pulling together to reframe how we are looking at its instruction when we don't have students physically before us. So we worked through building a continuous learning plan. Instructional Services Division worked to pull different platforms and resources together initially. Then we got with the administrators at the administrative staff meeting, I believe that was March 12th, and they broke out into teams with Dr. Sauce and Dr. Warren in actually building P2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 pieces within that Google document. And it was broken up by identified minutes of instruction, by content and course, learning expectations, teacher office hours that would be in play. So if a student or a parent needed some additional assistance, they would be able to actually contact the teacher during these designated office hours. There were a myriad of online resources that were vetted before they were put on the continuous learning plan in trying to match everything to standards-based instruction. With some of our other pieces, such as our special ed students there, I'd like to give kudos to Charles Kelly and his team. There were a myriad of requirements, federal requirements, that had to be delicately looked at, and with the overarching piece of service to our students and making sure they're getting what they need. So much of that has taken place, and case managers are ensuring that curriculum access and student support is present there, that IEPs beginning after spring break will have distance annual reviews with IEPs. And the same thing with Section 504 accommodation and support. That's taking place, and our school psychologists are also helping in that regard. Fortunately, the Georgia DOE has issued waivers. I would like to also say something. Ashley Crawford, as she and I were going back and forth and doing much planning in regards to grading and graduation and promotion retention, she was reaching out to Georgia DOE and filtering the myriad of questions, because that's not just Griffin-Spalding questions in this crisis. We know other districts have those same questions. And so I know she had been working with Justin Hill at DOE, and today we did get some official guidance, actually right prior to this board meeting, regarding some of those pieces where waivers were approved. So more information for Griffin-Spalding implication of that work to come. I know testing coordinators have been meeting, the MTSS coordinators, the special education lead teachers, school improvement meetings continuing. So I really do want to give a big shout out to my group in that regard, because the work is the same, but it's different. The other piece that was launched today was the social emotional learning Google Classroom for staff and students. And I think that came from possibly the principals meeting, where they were expressing concern about just this anxious time. And so one of the suggestions was about continuing that social emotional learning. So Elijah McElroy and her team in the curriculum department have put together a Google Classroom for staff and for students, and had designated persons and telephone numbers that if individually they need assistance, that they can have that as well. But there are other myriad of resources within that Google Classroom to support them, because our students and staff and frankly all of us, we're anxious. It's an anxious time. So I thank them very much for that. And again, that was pushed out today. Even things in instructional technology and Lonnie Harper's team. I just can't say enough. We would not have been able to do the digital learning piece and support students, staff, and parents without him and his team. So that guidance was much needed, and the planning and technical support district-wide in that regard has been pretty fantastic. So, I was telling Cabinet earlier today that the fun, a great thing to see out in social media are our teachers. They are just absolutely killing it. I mean, they are taking the Google Classrooms and they are making it just all of the supports for students and the learning for students, it's delivered in a fantastic way. The teachers, the schools, the administrators, students and parents, even some of the things have come out where parents have said, okay, I'm trying to learn this Google Classroom piece myself. Do you have just a initial guide to help me? Also, I know Lonnie's team put together just some online etiquette, things you might not think about, of what's behind you on the screen when you're on this virtual platform. Just some different things that one may not necessarily think of when you're doing it, but everybody's really just pulled together, and I very much appreciate how Cabinet and the district office and the schools and everybody's just pulled together. I love the ideas that come. I think someone mentioned earlier about adjusting. We do better when we know better. And so sometimes we'll get the feedback from schools that say, hey, have you thought about this? And we adjust on that dime to help provide that support. So I hope I didn't leave anything out. I know Dr. Sauce, Dr. Warren, Dr. Kennedy, if I've left anything out, please jump in there. But I'd be remiss to leave this conversation without thanking the instructional services team a great deal.
Ms. Jones, And Mr. Chairman, could I ask Ms. Jones a question, please?
Sure.
Miss Sarah, I can't agree with you more how the staff has gone above and beyond to try to make sure these students have access to their work. I know a lot of people made hard copies and delivered them, and we got the electronics out, got people set up. But I have a question. With all that hard work, what are our intentions if we don't come back into school? What are our intentions about the class? Because we're at the end of a semester, and when they come back from spring break, they'll be finishing up the final. What are our plans as far as their grades and for this ending semester and going forward into the next semester?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. I think Cabinet will tell you. I think the phrase I used at an earlier meeting with Cabinet was, this is what was keeping me up at night. We had been in conversations with Georgia DOE for those very things. Of course, the accrual of credit, graduation, grading. We were looking at what other systems, other states in this crisis were doing. We are, as you know, on block at our high school. Right. And we were able with students to get through that March 13th time frame. Then we went into this digital learning type platform. So the guidance that I mentioned a bit earlier, that Georgia DOE, they shared the waivers that the state board voted on. And then just today, they gave systems guidance to this very question of grading, Mr. Holmes. So we will, and that just came out this afternoon before this board meeting. So I have a meeting with Instructional Services on Thursday. There are a few options that could be thrown around. We were looking at taking the grades effective March 13th. There are some equity concerns that I've shared in regards to grading in this online environment, especially in these first 2 to 3 weeks when Chromebook devices were still going out and hotspots were being shared and packets were being given. And we were still hearing from certain teachers and parents that depending on their location, internet may not even be run out there. So those things for us had to totally be worked through before it would ever be fair to take a grade and assess a student. But there are a myriad of different types of assessment, one of them being formative feedback. And what we've asked our teachers to do with the learning that they're doing that is aligned to standards by course is to still have those assignments, but give feedback to the students on their path towards the mastery of those standards. But we've known all along we're going to have to address a point in time and what we're going to do about a grade for transcripts and graduation, and that information is still forthcoming. So it's ever present on our minds, and we knew we weren't going to get that information in the first 2 to 3 weeks. And so our best path was to be able to give this instructional feedback formatively to students on how they were doing. But that Griffin-Spalding guidance on grading, graduation, promotion, retention, all of that will be coming out soon to move forward.
Thank you for that answer.
And also, if I just may add, Mr. Holmes, too, I do appreciate the college and university level, as well as college board, recognizing, supporting our seniors at this time. The University System of Georgia, the Technical System of Georgia, College Board, they've all come out just in great support of waiving things here and there and understanding transcripts may be late or understanding second semester grades may not be present on those students' transcripts. College Board waiving SAT and ACT. So I'm proud that all of these entities have also pulled together to recognize the last thing anybody would want to do is, inadvertently punish a graduating senior,
Right.
trying to move on. So, but with all that being said, additional information specific to Griffin-Spalding is forthcoming.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Dr. Sauce,
Yeah.
Dr. Sauce, will you go ahead and share what's happening at the elementary level?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to certainly echo sentiments that Mr. Smith, Dr. Kay, and Ms. Jones have also expressed. I'm extremely, extremely proud of our elementary school teachers, paraprofessionals, media specialists, professional assistants, principals, assistant principals, coaches, and the like. They have certainly spared no expense of time, effort, love, attention, grace to make this as smooth of a transition online as it can possibly be under very unexpected circumstances. So to give you a little bit more context, first of all, Ms. Jones mentioned at the beginning of her remarks that we developed a continuous learning plan framework really on the fly, not knowing that we were going to be existing in this environment for any length of time. And at the elementary level, from pre-K through second grade, the framework that we developed is around 75 minutes per day of sustained learning tasks at home. In grades 3 through 5, that's around 105 minutes per day of sustained learning tasks at home. We recognize that this can't be a 6 or a 7 hour experience at home the way it would be in a traditional classroom for obvious reasons. So those are the general timeframes that we devised at the elementary level in the way of the amount of time at home in the subject areas, and that includes English language arts, math, science, social studies, and specials as well. Furthermore, for a little more context for the board and for the community, our elementary school students were quite accustomed to using technology, using devices in the classroom in a variety of ways. But what was not the norm prior to this transition was elementary students bringing home the devices every day. They were used in the classroom abundantly, but not at home every day. So with that being said, with literally a day's notice, not only did we devise a framework, but the elementary schools also devised some methodology to efficiently send the children home in grades 3 through 5 initially with devices on that last day, Friday, March 13th, before we unexpectedly closed for this now undetermined period of time. There were, of course, students who were absent that day who did not, third through 5 students I'm referring to, who did not get to bring home a device on that day. So the following Monday, which would have been March 16th, grade 3 through 5 students who were not present on the 13th were invited to come back and get a Chromebook on that following Monday, and the significant vast majority did. For grades grades K through 2, the learning tasks that were initially devised were paper-based, hard copy-based, experiential-based that the teachers themselves planned for and provided hard copies of in the way of our hard copy distribution days. Now, we have since made a change in that as of yesterday, our second grade students were provided Chromebooks, were invited to come and pick up Chromebooks yesterday. And we are shifting to an online format, an online environment for second grade as of yesterday. There are a few second grade families, there's relatively low numbers, but there are a few second grade families that were not able to come yesterday and get the Chromebooks or didn't come for whatever reasons, and individual principals are reaching out to those families to develop a way and a plan for them to get them. But the vast majority did get them yesterday. Again, just to kind of echo some of the same sentiments that Ms. Jones shared, our elementary administrative teams and teachers are being innovative and enthusiastic in their approach to try to make this, as normal as it can possibly be under the circumstances. We have our counselors are providing guidance lessons through online formats. Our elementary teachers are blending, mini lessons through the Google Classroom with learning tasks, or through Zoom rather, with learning tasks that are uploaded into Google Classroom. They're available through office hours multiple times per day, Monday through Friday. I know that many of our elementary teachers are getting inquiries from parents, having communications in various ways with parents about questions that may arise with the learning tasks their children are engaged in. Our principals and assistant principals and coaches are having regular meetings, faculty meetings, grade level meetings, etc., with the teachers to check in, see what needs they have, assist with whatever problems may arise, and kind of continue some semblance of normalcy under the circumstances in the regular communication that admin teams would normally have with teacher teams anyway. So that is certainly happening virtually. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be participating in one tomorrow that I was invited to for Moore Elementary, Region 1, Mr. Brown. So that is certainly taking place. We recognize that this is not, this is not perfect by any means, but to literally go from nothing to something pretty substantial in a short period of time in the way of solely at-home learning, I've just been so pleased and impressed and appreciative of our elementary staffs and our elementary parents too, quite frankly. As I close my remarks, many may recall I'm an elementary parent myself, so I'm also experiencing the same notion of working with and supporting my elementary children at home with their online learning experiences, while of course maintaining a full-time job as well. So I recognize that that's a different experience. But those are some updates from elementary. If I might, one last thing I forgot about ESOL and Gifted, if I could share that as well. Our ESOL teachers are also available through office hours. This is all grade levels now, not just elementary. Our ESOL parent liaison, Ms. Bates, her contact information is widely available to our ESOL families and to our general education teachers across the system. She's already getting calls to assist with interpretation and participating in virtual meetings for interpretation. Our ESOL teachers are also available for assistance and collaboration with our gen ed teachers. That's happening as well. For our program challenge students, our elementary gifted students, our program challenge teachers are also providing at-home enrichment tasks virtually and through hard copy through the schools for our gifted elementary students to participate in enrichment learning tasks at home as well that address their giftedness. Again, in closing, understood, nothing is perfect, nothing is a perfect solution, but that communication and those supports are being provided in the way of our ESOL and our gifted students as well.
Dr. Sauce, I have a question.
Yes,
you mentioned sustained learning, and we all know that sustained learning is just being able to keep their attention in things that they can work on. How are we monitoring sustained learning versus direct instruction? Because one of the challenges for me, I do in two different districts, in APS and in DeKalb, I do a social studies live with Professor Brown. And although those scholars are used to being online with me, because they only would see me twice a month on campus, so they're used to being online with me and going into Google Classroom and Padlet and Edmodo, different resources. So how are we looking at sustained learning versus direct instruction? Because
it's a good question.
There are times that when we're in the classroom teaching, and scholars are not their best. So how are we grabbing their attention via the technology? There's a kid that in the community I live in who, I know his family pretty well, so I let him borrow my extra laptop. So what are we doing to look at, not just sustained learning, but direct instruction? Because when you look at it, 30 minutes a day or on a particular content, that's not enough. And so what are we doing to kind of help out with direct instruction and how they're learning? And in this, this is uncharted waters, but in a 21st century learning system, this is what should be happening. Students online and getting instruction, whether, like I said, sustained learning or direct instruction. So how are we tackling both sustained instruction and sustained learning and direct instruction?
Well, a couple thoughts in response and to answer your question. So first of all, keeping in mind that from the elementary perspective in the way of digital learning, we're talking about second graders through fifth graders, which of course is a wide age range. We're talking 7-year-olds through 10 and 11-year-olds. So there's the attention spans vary, etc. Familiarity, comfort, access to technology vary, etc. But to answer your question specifically, at each grade level, each school, each grade level team, in conjunction with the admin teams, they're approaching somewhat differently. How often and whether or not they're providing lengthy mini lessons, if you will, online with the teacher. That's going to vary by week to week, by grade level. What is happening is that learning tasks are being provided and uploaded into the classroom. Teachers are monitoring the frequency in which learning tasks are being completed via Google Classroom. As you know, you have that capability. And checking in and reaching out directly to families when they see there's some lapses or there's some specific questions that come their way. But it wouldn't, to be direct and to be fair, we have not said and not set forth that, for example, every second grade teacher for 30 minutes, these amount of days, must be actually live in the Google Classroom engaged in a mini lesson. So that isn't uniform per se. That's happening. That's happening quite frequently. But it's not a same answer for you for every grade level. It's this number of minutes with a direct instruction piece through the Google Classroom. That is going to vary by school to school and by grade right now, depending on a number of factors. Just to be.
What are some of those factors, Doc?
Something that we certainly will continue to think about. Say again?
I said, what are some of those factors?
Well, we haven't, and I don't want to, Sarah, I don't want to step on some of your thoughts as well, but we haven't, issued a uniformed requirement of this number of minutes online live, but rather number of minutes for learning tasks during the day that it should take students to complete and engage those tasks. Dr. K, looks like you wanted to.
Ms. Jones, do we plan on getting to that, or Dr. Kennedy?
I was just going to add.
Dr. Kennedy, I'm sorry.
Just as we have some students who have some variation of whether they are able to get online, whether their internet is fully supported, we have some staff members who are in those types of situations as well. We have provided some staff members with some hotspots that were able to help resolve some of those issues, but some staff members, we haven't been able to resolve some of their connectivity issues as well. So we're still working through some issues with staff members along that line because not everyone's level of connectivity is different, not just for our students, but also for teachers who are also serving our students. Sarah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, and just in the pieces, just in the pieces of, modeling and guided practice and formative feedback and independent practice, just because something may be direct instruction for a period of time doesn't mean they don't have additional responsibilities outside of that. Honestly, our teachers are balancing something new to them, and they are trying to go beyond the scope of that traditional classroom and be part of a larger community of learners, even with their enabling students with their peer groups in the Google Classroom to do different things. So they are trying to bridge that piece between that sustained learning and that direct instruction. But from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, they're getting more than just 30 minutes of a teacher giving direct instruction. And in fact, some of the project-based learning, if you will, has been quite rich, even in the dialogue coming back in the Google Classroom with the multitude of students. I think it's truly, Mr. Brown, I think it's really expanded some of the schools of thoughts of teachers in what they can do even when we're physically in the buildings and are in session. And so I think that some of that is just true discovery right now for some. I think there are intentional steps to really bridge that sustained learning and that direct instruction piece and how they can make it as rich as they can for students. And that's what I honestly alluded to at the end when I spoke earlier. The things that I'm just seeing, they are extraordinary learning opportunities that these teachers will be able to carry with them even when they're back in the physical brick and mortar building. It's exciting. I told Cabinet it's exciting to see because I think their growth in this vein is just going to make them richer. And I think, students, this is where they learn. This is their jam anyway, So it's a fair question, and I think you're really going to see some good things from it. I really do.
Well, that's good, and just like I said, just to shout out everybody, everything that they're doing, and especially Lonnie and Miss Jones and Ashley, everybody. Thank y'all so much for everything that you're doing to ensure that our scholars and ensure that our faculty and staff members have what they need in order to be successful through this COVID-19. And so, we're all excited to see what the next steps are going to be.
Mr. Brown, and
go ahead and go about our business.
Thank you.
If I could add, I would give you some feedback.
Mr. Brown, can you hear me, sir?
Leader Holmes. Can you
Yeah.
hear Dr. Sauce?
Pardon me?
Hear Dr. Sauce?
Mr. Holmes, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to give them some feedback.
Mr. Holmes. Yeah, go right ahead, Mr. Holmes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dr. Sauce, if I stepped on you.
I think we have just a little bit of delay happening, but that's okay.
Okay.
No, please continue.
I just wanted to give Sarah and Dr. Kennedy and the staff some feedback. I've heard from staff members saying that they even have more. What triggered me is what Sarah said, that this is the kids' jam. I've heard from staff that they have more kids participating through virtual learning. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes, we have also received that same feedback. Some teachers have even indicated that students, that there have been students who were more, did not participate as much in the classroom, that they're seeing them get online to participate via technology. So it certainly is reaching some of the students who learn through different modalities in different ways. This certainly is a plus for them.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And I apologize, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Brown, we were stepping on each other there. I was just going to share, just for a point of clarification, for pre-K through 2, our continuous learning plan calls for 75 minutes thereabouts of learning per day, and 3 through 5 calls for 105 minutes per day. And of course, as I briefly alluded to, our teachers are using Zoom and Dojo and Google Meets and other sort of video conferencing platforms to engage in a variety of small group, whole group, and individual discussions in support of students throughout the district, even in the lower grades. So just wanted to offer that point of clarification.
Thank you, Dr. Sauce. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy, and thank you, Ms. Jones, for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I said about to just call on you, Dr. Warren, if you can tell us.
Yes, sir, pardon me.
Yes, just some secondary updates. First of all, has talked to our middle school and high school administrators, teachers, students, and parents. This has been a challenging situation, and the phrase I use to them constantly is that, unfortunately, one of those situations where we're building the plan as we go, and we appreciate their patience and flexibility working with us. The vast majority of our middle school students were given school issued Chromebooks back on March 13th. We were already one within the building, but they didn't take them home. So on the last day, March 13th, many of our middle school students left school that day with the device. I was over at Calvin Road Middle that afternoon and assisted with distributing Chromebooks, and they signed agreements and they took them home, and they used high school. The students were surveyed who needs the Chromebook, and thus far, we have issued over 500 Chromebooks to our students. We gave out 451 last Monday, and we gave out some more Chromebooks on yesterday, and we're giving out some tomorrow at Spalding High Schools. Due to the large student enrollments, our high schools don't have enough for students on a one-on-one basis, so that's why we surveyed them to see who actually needs one. But next year, that'll be taken care of as a district, we become one-on-one. Participation at the secondary level It's up and down. We really need more students to be more consistent in their participation. And I can tell you that administrators, counselors, and teachers, they're calling parents and students daily as needed to make certain they're working, get them on track. Our principals, they've been sending video messages to students, parents, and faculty via various modes of social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, to keep them informed. I can tell you, for example, that Mr. Stewart sent out a video with for parents in terms of how to access Google Classroom to make certain that parents know how to use it. They can check behind their son or daughter to ensure that they were indeed working. Also, they sent out many videos just to provide positive energy and encouragement. That was done by Ms. Jordan and Mr. Dawson as well. Just provide that positive, let them know we're on this thing together. In terms of a daily schedule, our daily schedule, this was shared with our students and parents back on March 13th. For middle schools, we're requesting 120 minutes of instruction per day. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday are for academic classes, and the Wednesdays are for the intervention period, teacher check-ins, and class discussions, and also counseling needs per each day. For our high schools, in high schools, we're on block schedule, which of course students complete an entire course in one semester. So for the high schools, we're asking for 240 minutes per day, and that's 9 to 11 for your AM block and 1 to 3 for your PM block. And Fridays used as for elective classes and core work if something needs to be done made up. So that's our daily schedule. Our administrators have been very useful in terms of hosting faculty meetings and professional learning. I would say that a big part of this, I just want to comment on, is teacher collaboration on the use of technology. It's been very, very strong. It's been a pleasant surprise. They're really assisting. Some of our teachers were not as strong as using technology, say Google Classroom or Khan Academy, I think nature. But with the assistance of some of our young teachers, administrators, they really are stepping up to the plate and trying things to provide. In terms of platforms, we use Google Meets and Zoom, as well as AirPods, having whole class instruction as well as small instruction that's live. We provide instruction by mixture ways via the hard copy pack that we're giving out to our students, Google Classroom. Again, live interaction with teachers. They're making video recordings through Castify. Also, they're using some of our platforms that the kids were very, very adept at using this school year. I think of Khan Academy, USC Test Prep, Path Lasers, STEM Skills for Science, IXL, Mobile Max, Achieve 3000, Dreambox. Dreambox is a math program that Cowan Road Middle School, they're piloting for the rest of the school year in Common Lit. One good thing about this COVID-19 situation is that a lot of companies are providing a free pilot of their programs and platforms for the remainder of the school year. So different schools are using them, and if they like it, then they perhaps can purchase that for next school year. So that's been great. Also, we continue planning for next school year, working on our school improvement plans and having budget meetings and whatnot. Also, the high school level, they're continuing, the counselors contacting students and parents and working on master scheduling, as well as scheduling individual student courses. So that's what's happening with that. But this entire process will be great. It's a great pilot for our school district to see what the one-on-one teaching and learning experiences look like for next school year, so that we can work out the bugs and kinks as much as possible this year to get off to a much better start for next school year in the 2021 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. I do want to go back and mention, because I know we've talked a lot about the Google Classroom and the digital learning. As you're aware, we do have some students out there with printed materials and packets, and we have teachers who do reach out to those students via telephone and emails in reference to just checking in with the parent, checking in with the student. We also have some teachers who are conducting lessons over the phone with students, those students who have some of the printed material. So we want to definitely make sure that we are staying in contact with those students as well, and making sure that teachers are able to kind of assess where they are in the learning and with the information they have to make sure their questions are getting answered as well. Anything else from Sarah, Dr. South, Dr. Warren, before we turn it back over to Mr. Smith?
I just want to again reiterate. Oh, sorry about that, Mr. Holmes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. South. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was just going to reiterate once more just how incredibly proud I am, and I know our entire team is, of our teachers and our staff, our principals, APs, coaches, counselors, for their adapting on the fly to make this as meaningful and relevant as it can be under very trying circumstances.
Mr. Holmes?
Oh, I was just going to ask Dr. Kennedy, how did Dr. Warren end up with headphones and Dr. Sauce got earpods in? You know, I ain't got nothing.
You know, Mr. Holmes, I'm going to have to look into that for you.
I had to dig mine out of the drawer.
And Dr. Kennedy, you got on a full suit?
I had to dig mine out of the drawer, Reverend.
Well, you know, Dr. Holmes, I'm always going to be professionally prepared all the time.
Full suit on. Go ahead, Dr. Kennedy.
That's funny. Well, I hope that gives you an idea of where we are in the instructional program. I think one of the most exciting things that you heard is how this whole experience has really gotten to the imagination of our teachers. It's one thing to talk about online learning. It's one thing to use programs in your classroom. It's something else to actually try to do instruction like that completely. You know, some of us who've gone through the college level have done online classes at college and know how difficult that can be, at least when you first start doing them. But I think our teachers have really seen a new side of technology, and I'm really excited about the future as they begin to incorporate this in more of the everyday life and not make it just this kind of place when you've got a situation going on and kind of have to, but really incorporate it like it's supposed to be. And I think it's going to be one of those silver linings that's going to bode well for this system in the future. I think that's, excuse me?
That was my fault. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm fine.
I was just going to circle us back around to the meals. Mr. Holmes had brought up some ideas. I want to take just a couple of minutes and say thank you to Sue and to Centel and Mr. Holmes for initially with seeing the need and desire to feed our kids that initial week. I looked at it on the beginning side that we were going to be a few days, and obviously I was wrong. We are not going to be a few days. Hopefully we'll be back in schools by August. But with that being said, the school system did step up and get some things done immediately for that Wednesday. And I would love to have financially been able to handle spring break even, but obviously there's no reimbursements and things that are going on with that. But I'm with Mr. Holmes that we have to continue to tweak and to find ways that we can serve more students these meals. So I am interested in finding out what it would take to put these on buses and deliver them around. I realize that's trying to determine how many meals that is going to be and what it's,
Say that again, Mr. Chair. Put it on what?
Put the meals on the buses.
All right now, Reverend. That's what I'm talking about.
And see what it takes to make that happen. I think that we would be, I realize it can be a logistic nightmare, but, some people would say what we just went through was a logistic nightmare and we came through it or are still in it. But I think that we have to at least turn over those leaves and those bushes. So I would open it up to other board members on what their thoughts would be on that.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I appreciate Mr. Holmes's remarks. I had suggested that we use the buses to deliver meals, and it that thought kind of got knocked down as I was seeing other systems around us doing that. I'm interested to know from Mr. Holmes which neighborhoods that we're not reaching, that we perhaps maybe need a couple of more sites to be open for those neighborhoods we're not reaching. We also have to remember too that some of our parents have lost their jobs.
Right.
And you know, I can just, as a former educator, I can remember teaching kids that didn't have the money to buy food, and now you have parents having lost their jobs. I do hope we can do more after spring break, because I think that we should do it, and we do get reimbursed. So why not do it? So I would like to see the buses and the routes that perhaps in the neighborhoods we're not reaching, where kids don't have the transportation. No, we can't take care of all 10,781 kids, but we could perhaps reach more than we are right now with regard to the economic status of some of these neighborhoods. And I hope that we can look into that.
And Mr. Chair, I would, same sentiments from Leader Holmes, and as I call her, my electoral line sister, Sue McDonald, being able to put it on the buses and to ensure that scholars and families are getting the nutrition that they need during this time. Something that I'm definitely for from the get-go. I love how Sue started the email. No is not an option. For me, no is not an option. So as we continue to look at how we can improve things, as we look at the logistics of it, and direct the superintendent and cabinet to do as such, I believe that with your support, when you're saying you want it on buses now, we can definitely get it done, and we will be able to reach, teach, and love a lot more in our community. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Barbara Joe. Ms. Cook.
I agree, Mr. Chair, that we need to reach out to those that do not have transportation and see how we can serve the community in a larger way with food. Those basic needs have got to be met for our students and our parents and our community before learning can take place. So I agree completely.
Go ahead, seatmate.
Yeah. I have a question for Mr. Holmes.
Yes, ma'am.
Zach, which, if you had the opportunity to open up another site, which site would you open up? At a school site?
The area, I would look at opening up one of the high schools, because that's an area that seems to not being served. Like I said, the Pine Hill area out that way, out Poplar Street, which is just right down the street from Griffin High. And then you have the area out there by Spalding High. That area, it seems not to be served, or the kids live out there and they don't have the transportation to get to one of the sites.
Sure.
So one of the high schools would be a suggestion that I would make.
Okay.
Mr. Holmes, I would just like to ask, you mentioned Spalding High, but we're using Futrell Road, which is right next door.
Yeah. But Mr. Aiken, I'm just going on where I and a couple other people that have chosen to help me, since I'm kind of homebound. Those are the areas where we have really gotten a lot of success. And the reason I say that, because I'm gonna tell you a site that serve more food than we do. That's my old pastor's church down on Solomon Street at Mount Moriah Baptist Church. Pastor Goggins. They serve more meals than the school system does.
I was down there 2 weeks ago with Centel. They do a great job.
Yeah, they serve more meals than us. So I'm saying that area out there away from Future, it's not a real, I guess ideal location, because the kids either have to walk or they don't have transportation. But something that can serve those little pockets that we are missing, and I know that's where we've been concentrating on, because in the city, it seems like, everybody is concentrated on the areas in the city, but we got kids out in the county that are don't get meals, and so that's why I mentioned those sites.
And also on that same token, where we're talking about, we asked the superintendent who we in conversation with, Salvation Army. I don't know what we're doing for the Salvation Army or to help during spring break, but I think if we were to connect with Mount Moriah and the emergency relief project there, I think they will be able to help to serve our community at a greater level. So I can forward over to you, Mr. Superintendent and Mr. Chair, some contacts for people over there. I'm not sure what they're looking for. I'm not sure what the school system can do. But as we are looking to partner, as I put in my email a while back, as we're looking to partner with the community, let's just make sure that we are, looking at every corner of this county, every corner of this city, as we are, here to help, our scholars and families.
Okay. Mr. Smith, we've given you some information and our thoughts and our opinions, and board members, are you okay if we give them some opportunity, some time to go to talk about this, figure out a plan? I'm thinking the possibility of coming back to us Thursday evening with kind of their ideas of what that would look like, a decision being able to be made before we, leave for spring break, so to speak.
So we communicate it,
get out of pocket.
Mr. Dawes, I have no problem with that, but I just want to, I know sometimes I might get tunnel vision. I look at things from my perspective. My wife always remind me, don't everybody think like I do. So, I'm sorry that they don't, but I've learned it's necessary. But I would like to know, because it may be something that I'm not aware of, may not be thinking of, but why can't we, if someone can answer this, why can't we utilize transportation and some other people to let them run their route, like we've all seen? Why is that a logistical nightmare? Because they normally run it twice a day, but with doing it this way, they only have to run it once a day.
Right.
Well, I think Mr. Chair, with Mr. Doss making that point of seeing the buses run, I think that it'll get done now.
Well, let's give Mr. Smith a question. Let's give him an opportunity.
Oh, okay. When
we first looked at this, we talked about a number of options on how to do this feeding. The cabinet and others went through a long process of what could be done, what was the best way to do. And it was determined at that time that the grab and go, the come and get the meals and leave was the safest way, the most in line with what we were being asked to do by state and local health officials, to not have people congregate, not to put people in harm's way as much as we could, but hand them the meals and then everybody disperse. And that's what we have gone under. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And I think that still is the safest way to do this without putting more people out there in the community to potentially be exposed to this virus. I think that's what they're asking us to do. Now, we'll be glad to look at what it would take for buses, but I still want to have safety and security of our staff and the families, the children that we're serving, to also be considered.
Being called upon to make sacrifices, which is...
Who is listening to Trump? Y'all turn that mess off.
Mr. Smith, I mean, I fully understand that, but you know, when you see how others have utilized the transportation, there's no congregating because they stop on their normal route, and someone stands outside, and someone's on the bus handing them the meal, and the person outside directs the kids to not congregate. They use that social distancing, and they make sure that occurs. They get their bags and they go from the bus. So I think you have more congregating possibilities, you know, at a school. I realize you use the drive-through methodology, but I think I'm just thinking that we would serve a lot more kids, and we can control it without any possibility of someone violating the social distancing, because they'll be monitored, and someone will be there to make sure that doesn't happen. Like I said, I'm thinking outside of the box on how we can do it, and that's just my DNA. But I was just kind of disappointed to see and hear people. You know, I have people that I know, relatives that work in other school systems, that were calling me and say, "Why aren't y'all doing this? Why aren't you not using your buses?" And I know you've heard it, and some other people have heard it, and you know, it behooves me why we're not doing it. So that's why I'm just asking the question on how did we get to that and didn't utilize a model that were being used by other systems. I realize they're doing it like we're doing it as well in some places, but there are other places that are doing it like I and Sue had suggested we do it. You know, utilize transportation. So that's why I asked the question.
Another thing added on to what Mr. Holmes and I have talked about is that what are we doing for parents that are actually working during that time, and they can't come by and pick up meals for their children? That's the group that I worry about right now. I mean, they're lucky enough to still have a job, but they don't have the opportunity to come by and pick up food.
So, Mr. Smith, is that something that you can definitely get with Cabinet with tomorrow?
We will go back and talk for sure, and because we've had a lot of conversations about meal service. They've taken up probably more than any other topic we've talked about. And I'm just talking about it again, but to answer Mr. Holmes' question, the way we got to where we are was we deemed that this was the safest way to hand out the meals. And that was the concern, but I think it's still the concern coming out of local, state, and federal health officials, is trying to be as safe as we can while we're doing this. I don't want to, that's still got to be a big piece of this, has got to be the safety of it. But we'll go back and talk. Maybe there's other things that we can do, but there are a lot of folks doing it exactly like we are. There's some that are using their buses, but that's how we got where we are. So we're glad to go back and talk about it, and we've talked about it a lot. I'm not sure we can change anything as far as what's going to happen next week, but we can certainly look to the future to see if there's something we might be able to do to modify. We did modify some and opening up some additional preparation sites to get more meals done, because we couldn't get enough done just at the 4 sites that we were originally using. So we had to bring those in and do those at different locations too. So we're trying to make those modifications, and we'll continue to have that conversation.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. I did want to give Ms. Dobbins a chance to talk about recruiting and hiring very quickly. So Stephanie, would you like to?
Yes, I can. I would like to commend administrators, because they have immediately gotten online and started conducting virtual interviews. I know they're balancing a lot of change at this time, but we've had several, well, as you can see, based on the personnel recommendations on the agenda this evening, a lot of that was done through Google Meet, Zoom, and FaceTime. So we are happy that they are out there still working hard and ensuring that we are fully staffed for next school year. Also, you are aware we had to postpone our job fair So we do hope that when things are cleared up, we'll be able to host an on-site job fair before we return to school for next school year. But we are working hard and continuing to plan for the future for next school year.
Okay.
Any questions on that? That's a big piece, is trying to get these jobs filled, and I appreciate the work they're doing, being creative, using more electronic means. LinkedIn has been a great way for us to get notice of our job openings out, and we've got a lot of response back that way. If not any questions for her, I'm going to ask Ryan to talk about the budget very quickly.
I'll just tell Miss Stephanie that I liked the $500 bill. I just didn't like the explanation that I didn't have opportunity to get one.
Sorry about that.
I got mine.
Under the strings. Ryan, you want to talk quickly about how we're trying to move forward the budget process too?
Okay, I'll just Ms. Smith, before Ryan speak, I'm putting in my objection. I'm not voting for him to be lead assistant.
I think you already did.
I didn't vote on that, Ryan.
You abstained? I guess next meeting I'll have a better opportunity during our information presentation to talk to the board, because I do want to do that because you guys mean a lot to me. I'll just go quickly over some of the items operationally with our area. Payroll went out today, just like normal. We sent out checks last Friday so that they would get there hopefully by today for anybody that still had a check. For the most part, purchases outside of essential service type purchases are on hold. There's a few exceptions to that, just depending on timing and how you can actually access the goods. Because delivery and receipt of delivery is an issue for us. We are working on the amended budget. I'm working on the financials that will go for our next board meeting and trying to lay out some of the implications of this as far as our amended budget. The obvious things will be under in areas like fuel, potentially utilities, but we also know that a couple of revenue sources are going to be hit pretty hard when it comes to our title ad valorem taxes, which is based off of car sales. So we're about to find out, trading off car sales versus property taxes on cars, how that's going to play out for us. And then also our interest revenues. When they lowered the interest rate to zero, we basically expect to lose a couple $100,000 there. Not to mention the nutrition program, we are looking at having it subsidized because we don't have the full revenue of these days where you have on average 7,500 kids eating a meal that we get reimbursed for or paid for. So I'm going to try to outline some of those items just so we have a reference point. And then as far as the budget, we've gotten real technically savvy with our Google Hangouts. This has been an opportunity to knock out all the budget meetings with the individual schools. So we're doing 2 to 3 of those meetings a day and compiling all that information. So given the fact that the legislature is not in session and we do not have a revenue number, we're trying to set everything on the expenditure side up as much as possible so that we have all the information as possible, so that we can pull the trigger quickly when we do get the revenue numbers, or when we may just have to make our best estimate knowing that an amendment would come down the road when we actually get our revenue numbers. So that is, we're proceeding like normal when it comes to the actual budget process. We just don't have the revenue side of it.
Anything else, Mr. Smith?
All the expenses and none of the revenue. Any other questions for Ryan? If not, I'd like to give Kimberly Green a chance to talk about our communication side as the final thing we had on that list.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Communications and Partnerships have been disseminating information about COVID-19 since March 5th, when Dr. Kennedy assembled the team to get information planned. We've been updating our resource page on the website. That's www.spalding.k12.ga.us for those who are watching. There's an active alert that pops up when you visit our website that provides the latest information. We're also communicating with our school communications ambassadors to help us share the message out, because your communications and partnerships department is a two-person team, myself and Laura Bieber. All the superintendent's letters, messages to parents have been posted in English and Spanish. For the month of April, we still plan to continue our observations, our school observations virtually. Things such as National Assistant Principals Week, Earth Day, National Arbor Day, School Library Month. We will also move forward with our Destination Graduation campaign. You know, around this time, we would have been totally engulfed in it, highlighting our seniors, our vows and salves when those are announced. We plan to work with our high school counselors to feature our seniors with their college acceptances, their cap and gown pictures, because we don't want to lose them while we're going through this process. So we do want to highlight our seniors and other, schools who are doing like virtual school spirit weeks and things like that. So we're just trying to manage the communication of COVID-19 and still balance the fact that our kids are still engaged in learning in the classes with their virtual classrooms with their teachers and peers.
Any questions for Ms. Green? Okay, thank you for doing that. And we're trying to maintain.
Not a question, just a comment. I do want to thank Ms. Green and her team for getting the information out. And the graphics that everything that's going along with it. Thank you so much, because it's actually helping our stakeholders to get the information and pass it around. And so just thank you so much for all that you're doing to, make this easy for us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, thank you for all those reports. There's a lot going on, as you can tell. I'm amazed at the amount of work that's being done and the amount of dedication that this staff is showing on behalf of the kids of this county. I'm really very appreciative and very thankful for them, from our teachers who've done a tremendous job out there, staying in touch, and principals, all the way up to our central office staff that is supporting the work being done, to the cabinet members and the board for supporting what we're doing. So thank you so much for all of that. So, Mr. Chair, that completes our reports on that.
Okay. Board members, Ms. Green texted me during this conversation, let you know that I misspoke about the number of training hours that you need. It is not 15, it is only 12. So Centel just needs 3, and then Zach and Barbara Joe need 6 each, and Sue and I have fulfilled ours already. So makes it a little bit better.
Cool.
Let me, Mr. Dawes, let me add one thing, because I did get a response back from Dr. Gordy at RESA, and they are looking at putting some board trainings online. The one on the April 15, they're trying to make that one an online using Zoom, I believe, but they'll get more information out about that as we see more of those. I'll make you aware of those so that you'll know, what's available out there as far as board training goes online.
Wonderful. Board members, there's some few informational items within your packet. Make sure that you have looked through those. We do have our board meeting that is set for April 14th, which is the first board meeting of April, but there is a good possibility we may have to do a called meeting and an executive session for some hires. There's some information about a principal or what have you. So we will keep you up to date on those type of things. And so we're winding up. We'll give opportunity for board member comments. I'm going to start with our ladies, and Sue, you're on the picture in front of me for whatever reason. Oh, Barbara Joe is now too, but either one of you that would like to, any comments?
Go ahead, Barbara Joe.
I just want to thank all of you for the extraordinary job that you are doing in these times. It's just so refreshing to hear your enthusiasm, to see your commitment to our students, our community. Your work ethic is just outstanding. I just couldn't be prouder of everything that you're doing. And I want to echo Centel's comments to Kimberly. Kimberly, your job is so vital right now, keeping all of us informed, and you have done a magnificent job out there, keeping it updated in the most effective manner. So thank you so much for your professionalism and what you're doing. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Mr. Smith. All of you have just done an extraordinary job. It makes me so proud to be a part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to second what Barbara Jo just said. These are really uncharted waters and uncharted territory. When I used to teach health and we talked about epidemics and pandemics, I never dreamed in my own lifetime that I'd be living through the middle of a pandemic. But we are. And I think that from what I've heard today, and I think all of you have stepped up to the plate and have hit a home run. Kimberly, again, thank you. I agree with Barbara Jo that your job right now is very vital in regard to getting the word out. I see all these good things on Facebook and Twitter, and I just really appreciate the work that you have done and are doing. But to all the others in the meeting, I just want to give a sincere thank you for what you're doing on a daily basis. And going down this river with water we've never seen before is hard, and everyone has stepped up to the plate. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes and Mr. Brown?
I'll defer to my leader to go first. Mr. Holmes?
So you're saying beauty before age, right?
Whatever you say, leader.
I want to digress to my comments. I don't want anyone to think I don't appreciate what you've done, what you're doing, because I know this is a new experience. But I just want to explain me. I've been working in in emergency preparedness and emergency response for almost 30 years. And what I'm accustomed to is revisiting and reevaluating. And I'm not the kind of person that, I used to get kind of criticized for not giving attaboys and patting folks on the back, because my mindset is you're only doing what you're supposed to do. So I apologize if I don't do that enough, because I have been made aware of that, but that's just how I roll. But I do appreciate what you've done and what you do, but I'm always looking at it from the angle of what can we do better. And so I don't want you to take my comments the wrong way, but I feel like we can do better, and I'm always pushing to do better. So accept my apology if I sound a little brash and unappreciative, but I do appreciate you. I appreciate the hard work. I know that everybody is all in, but I just wanted to convey what I was thinking and what I was feeling and what I was hearing from some constituents in the community, and I just wanted to make sure that old motto from my Rotary days, that we do what's best for all concerned. We just can't be satisfied with taking care of some people. We got to strive to take care of all people. It may not be possible, but the effort should always be there. So I thank you all, and I do appreciate what you do. It's just that I'm kind of passionate about my community, and especially kids, because that's where my heartstring is with the kids. So thank you all, and I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Brown, thank you.
I have nothing to say, sir.
I would like to.
Oh, he didn't say that?
Well, we're going to give him the opportunity, and it's okay. I would like to just ditto everything, and I really do appreciate Mr. Smith and all of the cabinet, but I also want to say, board members, I appreciate you. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your willingness to say what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And as we continue to work together, we're going to continue to grow and increase and improve. So
Thank you.
We do not have anything for executive session this evening.
No,
Mr. Smith, anything else before I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Before you do, Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
Is Lonnie online?
Yeah, thank you, Lonnie.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
He's
Lonnie.
somewhere.
Hey,
Lonnie, show yourself.
I appreciate you, Lonnie, and all your little off-color jokes that I get a kick out of.
Not sure
But
what
I wanted to ask you a question while I had you.
Yes, sir.
My Chromebook, it comes up that my McAfee protection I get a renewal notice. I just been disregarding it because I think that's something that comes from your end, right?
Yeah, we'll take care of that. Yours would be the only Chromebook I know of with McAfee on it. But that's not
Hey man,
it's sure it's the device I gave you.
I need an update, man.
Your Chromebook got.
Bring it by. We can take care of it.
With all of that, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we will be back in touch later on.
Thanks,
God
guys.
bless y'all.
Thank you.
Everybody, have a great evening.
Y'all take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.